So as I move on to part 3 of the tutorial, we're going to build an instrument and make it uh, step by step, and you can follow along. Now, if you haven't watched the previous 2 videos, I'd suggest you do that because I'm not going to go through every little detail of everything I'm doing, but I'll try to verbalize as I'm making changes as we try to go from the image you see on the left to the image that is going to end up on the right. The right is the finished product, and I'm going to show you how I made that step by step in the video. I would stress that the most important thing, first of all, is to get a good picture of the instrument you want, as straight on and true as you can, and then use that as a reference, and we'll see how to do that. Plenty of resources available for almost every instrument on the internet, and you can take an image and use that as a template to build upon. Now, I'm not trying to make a perfect replica of this instrument. I just don't have the time to do that. It's going to be a long video anyway. But in the meantime, I'll try to show you the techniques, and then if you want to take that and refine it, I'll certainly try to leave the files available along with this post so that if anyone wants to explore them in more depth, they'll be available. So let's get started. Okay, as I promised, I'm going to now try to put together what we saw in videos 1 and 2, the basics of the interface and the different tools that are available and properties, and try to make an instrument. I thought the instrument we would make would be something that's fairly easy, but still enough to get the feel of the workflow involved. What I'd like to do first off is to introduce let's set the canvas size. So we go to Image Properties, and we'll just set it for a nice square shape for a standard instrument. We'll call it 500 by 500. And it'll, if I OK, it'll resize that to a 500 by 500 canvas. Now the next step is to import a picture. Now we see this icon right here. And if you hover the mouse over, it'll show you now that it's being blocked by this palette here for the properties, but it says import. We'll click import. And I've got a file here someplace, Skinman tutorial. Let's get this here. So this is the one I want to use. It's a I'm going to hold the Shift key down. It's a DG. I'm going to pull it out and try to resize it so it kind of pretty much fills the thing. Now you want to leave a little space on the bottom and the left if you want to put a drop shadow on the thing. The other thing I'll tell you that is that this area here around the edge, you can see, is really just the casing behind it. The only thing that we'll see usually from the instrument and mounted in the panel, you can see there's mounting screws here, here, and here. What we really only see is the bezel and the inside, and the rest will be panel. So you need to leave at least all 20 or 30 on the edge there for a drop shadow. So we'll just make it pretty much fill the screen, and we gotta center this thing. So we're gonna have rotating. If we want to use full images, they have to rotate. They're gonna rotate around the center, or 250 over and 250 down, so somewhere. So we need to get this thing centered. First of all, we need to decide about how big we want to make it. And I think we might want to just make it just a tiny bit smaller there so that we have a little more room on the panel. And we'll try to center that up. Now, how we're going to center that is we're going to go to this lines tool that we saw. I'm going to change the color to white so we can see it. I'm just going to hold the Shift key down and drag that and create some lines. Actually, I didn't change the color. I changed the color but not the border. So I'm going to click on border here and then click on the white. And now we'll have the white lines. And let's increase the border width there, which is the line weight, and just make it just a little bit heavier. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to down here and say align horizontal center. And you can see it moved over. I'm going to say align vertical center. Okay, I didn't get that. Align vertical center. And you can see now that that's the absolute center.
So now we can take this other image, and we can go. You can see over here the background image is right here, and this is the lines, the reference lines I put on there. I'm going to click on that. Now I can use the arrow keys to kind of move that, and you can see the little hash marks there, and then left and right I can move it till it's centered. And that way, I'm going to lock that then. And that way I have that background image locked up in the center, so that when I lay things out using this as a template, it's going to work. Now, let's just take a simple shape here, and I'm going to just go up here to the top of this bezel, as you can see, and I'm going to drag it down to the bottom of the bezel. And the only reason I'm doing this is so I have some kind of reference. Now you can see it's the grid lock reference is on. So I'm going to go over here to size, and I'm going to get the length, and I'm going to make it a little longer. Let's see, about 450. So that's a good number. We'll start with that for a 450. Okay, so we can just kind of drag that line off to the side and use it in the future. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a circle. I'm going to hold the shift key down again. I'm going to drag a circle out here and make it about 450. That's 400. So the best thing is usually just to come up here and change the numbers. You sort of the size, 450 and 450. Now we could very easily just set the position for 250 and 250, but there again I'm just going to right click and say align horizontal and vertical. Horizontal center, align vertical center, and that gets me centered up here. So that's the outer dimensions of the bezel. Now I'm going to hide that just real quickly so I can see behind it, and I'm going to click on this ellipse and hide it. Then I'm going to take my little reference line over here, and this is just a trick. I don't know as it's necessary, and I'm going to shorten that, and I'm going to say just get it a little shorter, and I'm going to move it down, and again I'm going to move the position, the vertical position down, and match it up with the inside edge of that bezel. And then I'm going to adjust the bottom. Well, it looks like about right there, like 405 it looks like. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come back, I'm going to get that out of the way, drag that over, just over to the edge there where it's out of the way. And then I'm going to say, click this ellipse and make it show again. And then I'm going to say copy and paste. Copy and paste. Now I'm going to take the second ellipse and I'm going to change the color a little bit. I'm going to click on the little pink and make it blue or something so I can differentiate it from the other one. And then I'm going to go over here and just manually set 405. So I'm going to say 405 and 405. Okay, and then I'm going to again say align vertical center, align horizontal center, and now you can see that's nice and matched up. And then I'm going to drag that up onto the ellipse. So now I've connected those two, and I'm going to come up here. See, I still have the little blue circle here, so I'm selecting that one. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say shape minus. Okay, oops, I put shape plus. Shape minus. And you can see now I've created that bezel. Only reason I did the bezel first is it's just a little bit easier for reference to see that bezel first in front of me and get an idea for sizing. Now I'm going to change the color of that bezel by grabbing the primary, the parent object, and make it click color and just go to black. And then I'm going to, just for the heck of it, just to give us the look of what this is going to look like, I'm going to emboss that. So I'm going to change the depth to about, I don't know what a good number is here, maybe 6 or 7 here. And then let's change the again, coming up here, the depth and then the width of the border. Of course, we can make it look a little rounder, a little square. 2 is not bad. Let's leave that on there. And we can add some more, later we can add some, for example, a flat highlight, and we can make it wider. And you can see how that's added that highlight, and we can change the how the strength of that highlight. So we can take it all the way up or take it back down, but we can make it look the way we want there. And we have the bezel. So now we know that this ellipse here is about the right size for the background. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off. I'm going to take my little measuring device here and use it. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to drag it the upper right corner and drag this corner to the bottom right. And I'm going to pick a color like gray. And then I'm going to drag that back. You can see it there. I'm going to drag that rectangle. Well, drag that to the back. And then I'll turn this picture off just to show you what we got here. So we have the bezel. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to keep this image all the way in the back, but when I need it, well, no, I'll leave it there for the time being. But so I can just turn it off when I want to see what the thing's going to look like. That gray thing is pretty much history now. Now let's take this ellipse here, which is the inner dimensions of that circle, and let's duplicate that. So I'm going to come down here and say copy and paste. They don't have a duplicate command, so copy and then paste. Come over here and say paste. And it'll have the same dimensions. And I'm going to drag that over here so that it's, you see how I moved it over, so it's no longer connected to that object. And I'm going to have to come up here to the shape and make it a normal shape again. And let's give that a black color. Okay, and there's our background. So now we have the following layers. We have the rectangle, which I have way in the back. I got my reference image, which at any time I can click this little red thing and make it visible, so I can kind of compare what I'm doing to what I want to do. Okay, and then I have these lines. Now, these lines are not are strictly for a reference, and I'm going to keep those available. So I'm not going to use those. I can delete those later. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to this thing and call this bezel. I'm going to go down here, right click, and go down here to rename and say bezel. Okay, so now I have that bezel object, and I can completely remove it, all the sub pieces that are under it, and that by just clicking the little thing off there. So good. So now the next step is going to be to create the compass rose. Okay, so I'm going to bring my, I'm going to hide this bezel, I should say the ellipse that we've made. Later that'll be moved to the back, but I'm going to hide that so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to create some more of these stars. Now I'm just going to duplicate this one. Copy, and then right click and paste. And now we have two of those sets of lines. Well, we should. What did I do? I must have copied something that I didn't intend to copy. So copy and paste. Okay, now we have two sets of lines. Now let me make another little measurement tool here, and I'm going to start. You can see this is not quite. I'm going to take this here and take it from the top to about the bottom. You can see that it's not straight, but it looks like it's a height of about 3. It's a little high. It's a little. I'm going to run this. I'm going to come up here and move that down just a bit. Bring the bottom up by changing the height just a little bit. And there we go. So that's about, we'll call it 305. So we'll call it 305. So we're going to come over to this set of lines. Now this is duplicating the other set. I'm going to hide the other set so they're not in the way. And I'm going to increase the line weight to maybe 3. So it's a little thicker. And I am going to, looks like we got that way too big. So let's change it. Let's come down a little bit. Let's change the change it down to Let's change it down to about 310. 310. And again, we have to say center horizontally and vertically. Annoying. I wish they had a single center so that you didn't have to constantly do those two steps. And it looks like it might still be a little bit long. So let's try 290 by 290. And we'll say align horizontal center and align vertical center. Okay, now that looks pretty good. And then we can take our star depth here and we'll start running that up and try to match the inside diameter of those lines so that they look about right, which looks to be about right there. Oops. Okay, now let's look at the little sublines. I'm going to click. Now, one thing you'll notice is when you click it, it will step from front to back till it gets the right object. And I guarantee you'll grab the wrong thing more than one time. So, and unfortunately, you can't just come up here and click this and then drag it. It's just a problem with the software. But let's see. I'm going to take this down by increasing this y coordinate down to about there, and I'm going to bring the bottom one up until by the base up until it's about in the right place for the sub things. Let's see, that's about 280. Okay, and then we'll make a new star and we'll make that 280. Before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here to the first one the one that I just did. We get rid of my so there's the one we did. Now that's the reference lines. Okay, we need to make more of those. So we got to go around. Looks like 36 of those, one for each point on the compass. So let's come up here to our clicking on the lines. Let's say give us let's say 36 of those, and let's increase the border to one more setting there. Well, that's probably pretty good, 3. Okay, so let's come down to our second set of lines that we're going to make. We're going to copy that and paste it again. And this time we're going to change the height. What did we say? Let's say the other one was 290. This one can be about 5 less. So let's say 285 by 285. And a lot of this is just guesswork. And then we'll take we're going to go to 72 of those because those are every 5 degrees. So we change the vertices to 72. And then we're going to take our star depth and run it out a little bit. Oh, we forgot to center that too. Align horizontal center, align vertical center. Okay, so now I'm going to get rid of the image just temporarily. And you can see we have 2 compass roses, or 2 compass rows there. And the next step is going to be to, oops. Good thing is you can always say Control Z, and it'll take you back a step or a few steps. So if you screw up like I just did there, and that's what I was talking about. I thought I was clicking on that thing, but I didn't grab it. And I think we can delete that for the time being. So that's gone. So now we have these 2 pieces, and I'm going to connect them together so that I won't lose track of them, and I'm going to call that the rows. Right click, rename the rows, compass rows. Okay. Okay. So now we have that. These are our reference lines. They're not really functional anymore, but I'm going to drag those down to the bottom, and they're not turned on. And then we have this ellipse, which we have hidden, but this will, in the final instrument, that'll be there. So now the next step is to put some numbers on this compass. And might help to see our reference lines in that case. So I'm going to come in here and I am going to click text. And I'm going to click there and I'm going to say N for north. And we can use the Arial font. And let's say something about like 46 maybe, I don't know. We can come down here and just step up the font till it looks about the right size. And then maybe make it, we can change the aspect ratio. If you look at the original, you can see it's kind of a weird looking. See how the ends are quite wide. So if we grab this and go with the aspect ratio, we can increase that up and make it look wider. In fact, that's probably about good, about 125 or so. And if we need to, of course, we want to change the color of that. Again, it's the fill color, so we'll click white, and you can see that the letters don't perfectly fill the square, so you're going to have to eyeball this to get it right. And let's turn on our image so that it's in the background. You can see this is the N here, but we have to center it up but we can get the distance here. So I'm going to come up here and just step by step take it down to about the right place. I'm going to take it over to about the right place. I wonder if we need bold or not. I'm trying to get the feel for it. It's a little too much, isn't it? Let's just increase the font just another point or so and readjust the location. That looks good. Okay, so now we have this size letter. Let's go ahead and make all the other ones. And I'm going to go ahead and do this while you're not watching, but what I'm going to do, I'll just show you the first one. I'm going to click to grab that. I'm going to say Control C and Control V to copy and paste. I'm going to drag that over here to this side, which would be east. I'm going to change the text on that copy to E. Okay, and then I'm going to rotate that so that you can see I want it to rotate it to 90 degrees. So I'm going to, just in the angle here, I'm just going to type 90. And then I'm going to just fine tune that with position here. I'm going to position it out about the right place and move it down till it's centered up on my reference line. Okay, and we'll do the same thing with the west and south and west. So now you can see I've created a south. I actually just copied this one and dragged it down here and did a 180 degrees turn, and then the east to the west. And now I've got those 4 cardinal points. And if I turn on my the ellipse that constitutes the background, you can see where we're going. Now the next step is going to be to produce the letters for the every 30 degrees. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to steal one of these just for the heck of it, so I don't have to set the color. And I'm going to resize it, but I'm going to drag it over here a bit. I'm going to put the first number is going to be 30, and I'm going to have to size that down quite a bit. Let's say maybe 40, I guess. And it's going to have to be changed to an angle, rotated around to 30 degrees so that it can match. And I go, here's 10, 20, 30, so we need to center it up on that. And with the grid on, sometimes you want to turn this grid on off so you can put it wherever you want it exactly. It can be a bit annoying, but there's 30. And we'd same thing. I'll say copy, Control C, Control V. I'm going to drag that down and put 60 in there. So we'll type 60, and we'll set the angle to 60. I mean, you know, we could have, let's see, 10, 20, 30. So there it is, 60. We're going to have to play around with these, but you get the idea. We're slowly but surely. And there's 30, 30, 60, 90, and we'll continue on around. And I'm going to do that, but there's no reason for you to watch that. But it's best to set like the text attributes for this and then just copy and change the numbers, because that way you know they'll all have the same aspect ratio and the same height and so on. They'll be perfectly matched. So I'll be back in a moment after I complete this circle. So you can see I've duplicated each of these numbers, changed the number here in the text, and changed the angle to the appropriate angle. It just so happens in this case, since we're starting with north, the angle of rotation is equal to the angle around the circle in the same number that you're typing, so it makes it simple. So let's turn off the reference lines that we put on there just for the heck of it and get an idea where we're going. Now let's look at the original image. You're going to see that it's not exact. I didn't bother to find the exact font, and we could spend more time making the letters match up perfectly if we wanted it to be absolutely perfect. But this, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to keep moving so it doesn't last forever. And I'm going to turn on the image, and you can see we're kind of getting there, slowly but surely. Actually, you know what? They didn't put these. I made a mistake here. They don't have all 3 digits on the number, so I'm going to correct that, and I'll be right back. I put 120 instead of 12 and so on, and that makes it look a bit more crowded. So let me fix that. Let's go back to the image, and then I'll come back in just a second and show you what it looks like when it's fixed. Okay, so that looks a little better. I got rid of the extra zeros on those, and now it looks a lot more like the original instrument. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to just click the red here, which means show only it, and we can kind of back and forth, and you can see we're getting it somewhat close. We could adjust the size of the radial marks and so on, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing that. But we're getting close. So let's see what we have yet to do. We need to draw this airplane. We need to put these reference marks that don't move with the airplane. There's a backwards and a forward arrow, these two 45-degree circles, and then the 90-degree lines. So let's start working on the airplane first. Airplane is a little tricky. What I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to go to zoom and get a little bit bigger view. Okay, so let's try to build this airplane shape with the shape tool, the filled shape tool. I'm not going to try to get this small diameter. I'm going to use something else, another little trick for that. So let's start right here, and we'll click point number 1, and then point number 2. I don't know what happened there, but we can correct that. Point 3, point 4, point 5. 0.6, 0.7 here. We'll just keep going. And somewhere near the middle, we'll come back up here somewhere near the middle. And then we'll try to complete the shape. And we'll make that visible. Now let's edit the shape. We got some work to do here. See if we can do this. So we right click on it and we come back and say edit shape. We're going to try to grab these little points, drag them where we want them. Do we have the grid off or on? Let's see. There we go. That's what was getting us. Oops. Edit shape. This is a little tricky. It probably would be easier to make the whole thing. Make the whole thing a little bit larger and just reduce the size of the end product. But let's see if we can do this. We'll take this point and drag it down to there. We'll take this point and drag it down to the corner. Take this point and drag it down there. Okay, this point, I'm not sure exactly what I got here. No, I think I want to drag the other point. So let's take this one this way temporarily. Oh, crap. Once you get these handles out, it can be a bit tricky. Take this one over here, try to split the difference of this airplane. And then we'll take this one and try to take it up to there. We can maybe get rid of some of the shape by doing that. And maybe this one over just a little bit here. You get the idea. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to first of all click it. I'm going to grab that and I'm going to say copy V, Control V, Control Paste. And then I'm going to select this with my right and I'm going to say mirror horizontal. Now I've created this copy that's over here. I'm going to try to match these up, and now once I have it I can use the arrow keys to fine-tune it. And it's not bad. And then I'm going to take the circle tool and I'm going to create something kind of shaped like that. Again, I got to make that show. And I'm going to take that and put it, try to superimpose it over there. So there you go. So anyway, that's the basic idea. Now I got to take all these pieces. Now there was two shapes and an ellipse. I'm going to just drag those up on top of each other and use the additive tool. Drag that up. So now that shape, and I'm going to say, let's change the name of that, right? Rename airplane. Oops. Plane. Okay. That'll help us keep that straight. When you make multiple piece things, it's nice to have that straight. So there's the airplane. We need to change the color. And I did go and look at the RGB values for that in the thing. I think it was 129, 252, and the last one was 37. And then we have to click someplace outside that field to make it take. Okay, so we forgot something here. Oh, I know. We needed to go shape. We need to select that secondary shape and come over here and make it an additive plus, and we need to take the ellipse and make it an additive plus, so that their pieces are all stuck together, and then the color will be transferred. So let's step back out here to normal size, and not bad, not bad. Compare that to the original. I'm going to give it priority here and bring it to the front here. Well, we can't. I can hide the airplane though, so watch this. I'll turn the airplane on. It's pretty good. I mean, it could be a little better, but it's going to be fine for our demo. Okay, so we got that. Now we need to do these 2 points here, these 2 little lines. In this case, I think the easiest way is just to create a little dash, make it white in color. So we'll select color and select white. Get our color palette back up here, white. And we can adjust the vertical, again, the left and right. Let's get of course, things always expand from left to right, so let's get it right on the left side, and then we'll grab the left-right dimension and shorten it up, and then we can select this to make it go up and down till we get it lined up. And then what I would do is I would just, well, that's still a little bit long, so let's make it a little shorter. And we can make it a little thinner too, probably 4. And let's see how that matches up with our reference lines if we bring those up. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take this little rectangle here And you notice I accidentally made that rectangle part of the thing. Let's turn off the airplane special, and let's turn off the background image. And you can see I have that line there, and it's perfectly lined up with the west. So I'm going to say Control Control copy C, Control V, and I'm just going to use the left arrow to take that over to the other side. And we'll just take it over there and put it about the same distance from the reference line, so it looks good. Okay, and then we're going to create another one down the tail of the airplane. So I'm going to create another point line, and we'll make it at the same thickness. I think it actually went under the airplane, so we'll change that to white. Let's make it 4, because that's what we had the other one. Well, it's already 4. And then let's see how that looks on the original. I'm going to click the image up here. You can scroll this tree with your, okay, so it's a little bit behind the airplane. So we're going to take the up and down here and run that left and right, run the vertical down a little bit. I'm going to bring the bottom of that thing up a little bit so that it's about like those. And it looks like it could be a little bit to the right. So we'll move it a little to the right. And that looks pretty much perfect. So now let's see, we need a couple more things. We need the triangle for the front. I'm going to take the star tool, and I'm just going to create a shape. It's about the right size. And it just turns out that the 3-pointed vertex star is the standard size. So I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to look at the original here to make sure, see what it looks like. It's a little bit small, so we can make it wider. We go here and make it wider, make it a little longer. And we could even, if we want to get fancy, we could just say center, horizontal, align, horizontal center, and it's perfectly lined up. Is there any other lines under that? Let's look at the image again here. Nope, that's it. So you notice that in the picture that all these points, this thing, these, and these circles and that are all casting shadows. So we're going to want to create a shadow for all of those things. And we'll do that in just a minute. We'll group those together and create the shadow all at once. Can't quite group them all together though, because if we do, they'll all try to have the same color if we try to make them one object. Let's make the circles here real quick and get the idea of the size here. Let's make them about that big. Again, I got to turn this off so that, where did those come out? Oh, it's way up here. I got to see. Sometimes if you've got something selected, it'll drop it right where you are, and that's not where you want to be. Normally, I'd spread this palette out a little bit. I'm trying to stay on the okay, and that's supposed to be that's white again, color white, and we're going to move that up to the 45 degrees. So there's 10, 20, 30, 45. So we want that about right there. And I'll just copy, Control V, Control C, Control V, and just right arrow and drag it over here until it matches up with a 45 line on that side too. And now we got those points. So let's take, let's add a little depth first of all to this one. And we'll say, we're going to come down and emboss that. And we'll say emboss that about, let's see, 1, 2, yeah, that's about good. I'd say I'm going to add a little bit, make it a little rounder. And I am going to come down here and give it a little shadow too. So I'm going to say density, we'll turn the density way up to about, let's take it up to about 75 or 80. Let's go to 80. 82. The offset we'll leave there. I'm going to take this background circle, if I can figure out which one it is. It is this one, I think. Yeah, and I'm going to make it a lighter color now so we can see our shadow. So let's select that. And let's go over here and change the color. I'm just going to drag the density up a little bit. Now you can see our shadow there. And then I'm going to increase the diffusion to kind of give it a little more of a more diffuse. Well, I didn't grab the right thing. I need to come back down here and grab my little star and then change the diffusion. So I'm going to increase the diffusion. You can see it gets pretty diffused pretty quick. In fact, let's take the density all the way up to 100%. You can see the shadow, and now if I select that, I'm going to increase the diffusion to about 3. Now I'm going to do this. I'm going to say copy, copy, and then I'm going to go to all these items and go paste effect. I must have not gotten it here. Let's go here. As I said, and we'll click this one, paste effect, and you notice it's pasting the color, which is already the same, but it's, I mean the effect, but the shadow and the depth, and I'll do that same thing for this. Paste effect, and grab this one and say paste effect. Now we could have done, if we had been thinking, we would have gone on and made the first line that way and just copied it. But if you forget to do that, paste effect is a great tool. And you can see now we have a shadow on everything except our friendly airplane here. And let's see what we had, just so we remember. This was 8, 103. So let's come over to this thing, and let's this little airplane, and let's say 8, 100. And 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we have our shadow on that too. And the only thing we didn't do is emboss that. And this we embossed at, I don't remember, we embossed it at 5. So we'll grab the little airplane and we'll take that up to 5 too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now that's all got that look of 3D. So thanks for your patience. We're almost there now. We're getting very close. Got to do a little more work, do these knobs, and then we'll export the pieces to put the thing together. One thing we can do is on this bezel, we'll select the bezel and we'll put the drop shadow on there. That's not on there now. We'll go to density 100%. We got 8. Looks like I might, yeah, and then we got to diffuse that a little. We need to put that bezel on top, and we will eventually, and that'll, if I just drag this bezel ahead of the rows there, this is the bezel. It looks like I may have made an accidental copy of that. Let's see, yeah. We can get rid of that. Let's delete that. And if we drag this bezel up ahead of this stuff, now you can see the shadow is, since it's on top of it, the shadow is falling on the compass rose there. So we're almost there. I'm going to make the little heading indicator, and let's go look at our original image and get a feeling for what that looks like. I'm going to zoom in a couple times here and scroll up to kind of give that something as a pattern. And we could just use a straight line, but there's a little bit of a angle on that. So let's try using the shape tool again. So we'll start here in the middle again. We'll go from here to here to there to there and to the tip, and then back up to here. And since let's turn this off. Okay. And that shape needs to be on top of all the compass rose stuff. So it'll be up here someplace. And what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate that. Copy, paste, and then we'll right-click, mirror horizontal, and we'll just take our arrow and move that around, get it to something that looks about right. And then we're going to combine those two shapes. We'll drag one up to the other, and we will select normal shape plus. And then we can come down and emboss that a little bit. So we'll add some depth to it. Whoops, we got to grab the parent object if we want to make the change to everything. We'll add a little depth to that. And let's add the color. And in this case, the color I did, there's no way to read the colors to import them. So what I do is I just look at another program like paint.net in the original picture and just check the color. And this was 238 and 116 and 17. Oops, 17. Okay, so there we go. We got the look that we were looking for. That should be behind the bezel because it's hidden slightly by it. But it needs to be above the... So what I want to do here is I'm going to take all of these text units here. I'm going to shift click and select all of them. And I'm going to drag those up onto the compass rose because we want that to be all one unit. So I'm going to drag that on there. So now the rose has the lines, the outer lines, the smaller hash-like lines and all that. Now this is just our reference line. We can probably can that at this point. And now you can see our little heading thing needs to go just a little bit to the right so that it lines up with things. So I need to grab the top one, and then I just need to use my arrow key to bring that perfectly in line. That looks good. So let's get back to, let's zoom back out to the normal view and scroll back up and unselect that. And that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. We could make it just a little bit wider. Comparing it to the original image though, yeah, it should be a little bit wider and probably got a little too much depth to it. So let's select the original. There it is. Let's see if we can widen this a little bit. And get rid of a little bit of the emboss. So we'll come down to the emboss and take it back down to maybe 4. That looks pretty good. Okay, so we're almost there. The last thing we're going to do is do the knobs. And then I'm going to just grab my tool here. I'm going to create a circle about the right size. It's a little too big. We will add some, and you can make these round if you like. We can add some depth to that. So we'll still emboss that slightly. Give it about a 3 ought to work. Then we can put another circle in the middle, and that's going to be dark. So we'll make that close to black. And then we'll, in the center of that one, we need to make another circle, and we got to get it pretty close to the edge so it looks like the original. We'll bring that up. And what we can do is we can grab both of these, and I'll control click, oops. And then I'm going to say align horizontal center and vertical center. When we select two items, more than one items, then instead of centering on the whole thing, it centers actually on what we've selected. Now that center piece there, we're going to select that again. And I'm going to make that jet black, or maybe just a little lighter than that. And I'm not going to go through the details, but you can put an arrow. The way I would make that arrow is get an arc. Actually, what we could do is we could make an ellipse, and then make another ellipse that's almost the same size. And we can use the angle just to take an arc, just to take part of that. And we could create the arc, put some arrows on the end in the text. But I'll finish this up and show you the end result here in just a minute, and then we'll talk about how we're going to export everything. Let's get rid of let's go back up to the very top. Remember, we had we're going to get rid of our image. And now you can see we have a drop shadow internally and out externally. Sometimes I put another object under the knob because the knob can rotate. It'll be a separate graphic. And sometimes I'll put a little, just a pixel or two narrower underneath it, and then put a down shadow and just leave that as part of the background so the shadow stays there. And when the knob rotates, the shadow would stay there. If we try to put that on the thing when we rotated it, it would rotate around, and that would look wrong. So, okay, so I'll be back in a minute with kind of the end result, and we'll talk about how we get the images out of here together. So I changed my mind here. I wanted to show you something that I hadn't covered, and that's how you can do this. Let's take a circle here to make this little arc that we wanted. Let's get a color of white. Let's get the color. That's not. Let's bring that to the top here by these other ellipses, and let's go to. You can see border. Let's turn the border on. We'll set the border color for white. We'll take it up to a decent size, and then what we'll do is we'll take the start and stop angles, and we'll try to shorten that up. Unfortunately, it's going to draw this section here, and we can cover that up with another piece of let's go here. Let's go pi, and then we'll bring the other one. So by going pi, it draws the line straight across. Then we'll bring the other side up to about the same angle. Might even add another little thickness there. Let's add that to this. We're going to get rid of the fill. There's a little fill here. We'll get rid of the fill. And we got a little too much thickness there now. Let's take this back down to about right there. And I'm going to zoom in on this. Zoom, and scroll over there. Scroll over there. Now, the way I would do this is I would just take a little piece of and down 1 pixel, and we could make that the same color. This color here, go to, I think it's right here. Oops, color. Border off. go back to this. I think we got the border turned on. We want this border to be white. And we'll make that totally black so it matches. Oops. And we could put little arrows on each end. Let's go again, and we get the arrow with the tool. We need to make the color. Again, we got to be careful. These things keep falling behind here. Bring that to the forefront. Let's make it a little bigger. We'll make it white. Color white. And then we'll take our little angle thing here and angle this around till we get the angle we want. I'm getting a little, let me do it with, sometimes it's just easier to much easier to use the scroll wheel to move these things around. And we'll take this and move it up here. Make it a little wider. Okay, and we'll move it a little more. Okay, we got that one where we want it. Let's just duplicate that. Copy, paste, take it over in the vicinity with the arrow keys. And then I'm going to say that's a 143. So we're going to just make it a positive. Let's see, we want to go positive 143. That way we're sure the angles will match up. Okay, and I forget what it says. I think it says push. Let me hide some of this stuff. In fact, let's organize all this stuff together here. We have the outer ellipse and the inner ellipse, so we can put those together, group those together, and then the smaller ellipse. Oh, that's one of those may be, actually, I must have that wrong. Yeah, that's that. That's that. Okay, we're good. And then that little rectangle, we put the hide there. We can put that there. And then the polygon 1. And let's scroll down, and there's polygon 2. So we can test to see when that's the DG set, the heading setting knob, and we can just click and make sure everything disappears and we're good. And then let me look at my image here. Push is what I need. So I can write push. Come here and put push, P-U-S-H. I think it was all upper. And we'll put that, center that up in there and make it white. And then add bold maybe to make it a little easier to read. And that gives you the idea. So now you get the idea. And the other way you could have made that is make a circle here and then put a small circle and cut it out and make it white. But if you use the border on the outside and take away the fill, the only downside is if you do that partial, you have to cover up that section somehow. And I can see we don't have the color matched perfectly, but we'll work on that. Okay, back in a moment with the almost finished product. Okay, while you were away, I completed these knobs. You can see I put a shadow, and what I did was create a circle that was just about 2 pixels smaller and centered it up underneath. And then I increased the offset beyond the normal 8. I gave it a little longer shadow to simulate it's being a little higher. But that's going to be attached with the background of this compass rose so that it will be available when the knobs change, that they'll stay beneath it because the shadow wouldn't change. Also created the little heading thing. Actually took a triangle and combined that with a vertical piece to give that shape there. So that's the basic design. Now let's see how we want to export this. What I've done is tried to organize it. As you can see, I'm going to kind of go through the layers here. First of all, the image is out of the picture now. We don't need that anymore. And we don't need our reference lines anymore. So I'm going to delete the reference lines. And which reminds me of something I didn't say earlier. About every step, you're going to want to save, because this thing does not auto-save. And I've lost my work before. And when you've worked really hard, it's absolutely frustrating to lose your work and think, I got to try to figure out all those brilliant things I did before to do them again. So anyway, I also added a little highlight to this back piece, that back piece square, and I'll show you that in a second here. So let's kind of step through this image from the back to the front. That's the way I've organized it. Okay, the first thing we have here is the background image. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to change here where it says, I'm going to canvas, I'm going to say image properties. I'm going to change, oops, that's the wrong one. I want to say background color. I'm going to add a darker color just only because I want to be able to show you some stuff as we go. So anyway, so there's the background image. It's the same color, so it's that big flat image. And then let's just show that only. There it is. That's it. Okay. Then we go to the next layer, and that is actually, it looks like we might have two of those background images, but it's neither here nor there. And then there's the image that we were using as a reference. We're not going to use that anymore, but I'll leave it there because when we print, it'll only print the things that we have highlighted. So the next thing is the face background, and that is this part. And see, you can see I've put those circles with the shadows and that. Now, I probably should have picked a different background color because it's confusing. It's matching the color we had, so I'm going to pick a different color. How's that? A little bright, a little lighter. Okay. So now you know that's going to be absent when we print it with alpha. This is going to be transparent. So all it's going to be is this center, and you can see I added a little highlight. If you come over here, you can see I added a circular or spherical. Let me select the right item here. You got to remember all these things are still there even though we can't see them. So I'm going to click the face, and you can see I put a spherical offset. This offset value, you can move it around, and you can see a slightly lighter spot. It gives kind of a spherical look. It's kind of a nice touch. And then we these are hidden. These are going to be hidden behind the knobs, so that's not an issue. And let's go on. So let's get so this will be one thing we'll print right here. This will be first thing. Let's go ahead and print. Let's go ahead and make a copy. I say print. Let's go ahead and make a copy of this, and oops, this right here, and that is our background. So I'm going to come over here and say export image. I'm going to say background. And I'm going to come down here and say PNG with alpha. And unfortunately, you got to do this every time. It doesn't say that. I'm going to go to desktop. I made a folder here, someplace here that says DG Art. And I'm going to say save. Okay. Now we're going to go on to the next thing we want to do. The next thing we wanted to do was this face. So I'm going to select that. And I'm going to get this, this, and that. And I'm going to say, I'll call it face background or something. So you'll say export image. We'll change it to face background. And we'll say export PNG with alpha. And we'll save. Okay, so now we got two images. Okay, now we're going to get rid of that, and we're going to go on to the rows. Now this is the rows. This is where I mostly wanted the gray background so you can see what's there. This is the part that's going to be rotated around as the heading changes. And it'll be over that fixed black background. It'll look like everything's moving, but actually only this will be moving. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to say save as export image, and I'm going to call that the rows or compass rows. And we're going to make that, should be two S's in comp S, and PNG plus alpha, and save. And you can see those previous two graphics that we've already saved. We'll save that. Okay, so now we've worked our way forward, and that's going to be. Now the next thing is the stuff that goes over the top, but under the bezel, because sometimes we may not want to use the bezel. Well, we can do this first. This is the heading bug. So I'm going to say export image, HDG _bug. And we're going to say PNG plus with alpha and save. Okay, remember the gray isn't, this light gray is not printing. Okay, so the next thing we have here is, okay. These little things need to be going with the airplane. I put all that stuff with the airplane, so I'm going to move that down, and I'm going to turn that on. And now you see there's the stuff that's going to be with the airplane that's going to be fixed with the compass rotating behind it. And you see our shadows and everything. So I'm going to call this, let's just call it lubber line. How's that? Because this is the lubber line, I think. Or just, I don't know, a good title for it. Let's call it face cover. Oops. We'll say PNG with alpha, and we'll save that. So you can see how we're working our way forward. Now let's close that out, and let's go with the bezel. And the bezel is just that. It's just the bezel. And if a guy's building a real hardware bezel, he might not want that. And we'll say export image, bezel, and we'll say PNG with alpha. Okay, so now we got the bezel. So now the last two things we have is two things. We have, let me get rid of that. We got the push knob, which I call it is the sync knob to sync the heading. That's there. And then we have the, I didn't collapse that. But this, and I didn't name this, but I should have called it the heading knob, but I'm going to go ahead and print it anyway. We can print that. So here's how this is going to work. In fact, I'm going to call that, I'm going to rename that just for the sake of, where's rename? There we go. Okay, HDGKNOB. So that's the heading knob. Okay, so that's good. So now we got the push knob and the heading knob. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little trick here, and I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, so now we have everything but the heading knobs, and what we want to do is click on each one of these heading knobs and get the coordinates. We can look in the properties up here at the top and get the position and the size, 72 by 72, and it's at 3839 for this one, and the other one is at 399. Another one's 396 and 399. So I'm going to write those down: 38 and 399, and 396 and 399, and they're both 72 square. So what I want to do now is I want to grab one of these, and I'm going to first save everything I've done here. So make sure I won't lose any of my work. Take the push knob first. I'm going to select it here and say copy. And then I'm going to open a new file. I'm going to paste. Okay, and then I'm just going to come up here and say trim visible. Trim visible. And you see now, if I look at the size, it's 72 by 72. And there it is with a clear background. And I'm going to save that. I'm going to save as sync knob, we'll call it. Okay, and we're going to, saving that as a skin first in case I need to edit it. And then I'm going to export the image. And I'm going to do it as a PNG with alpha, and I'm going to say sync knob. It's going to give me a 72 by 72, and I know the coordinates because I got those off of before we did that. So now we go. Now I'm going to go to and save that. I saved to that, so I'm going to open and I'm going to go back to my and you can see here the ones that we did. Go back to our DG project, and I'm going to grab this heading knob, and I'm going to say copy, and then I'm going to open a new, and I'm going to paste, and then I'm going to say trim visible. We got 72 by 72. You see that coordinates for that one are right there too. And then I'm going to say save. I'm going to call that HDG knob. And the only reason I do this, I mean, I could print it and I'd be fine, but then if I need to make a change because I misspelled something or don't like exactly the way it looks, I can edit that later. And then we'll open. We're going to export that image as a PNG with alpha, and we're going to call that heading knob, HDG knob, or whatever we want to call it. Let's call it HDG knob, and we'll save that. So now, if I click Save As again, you can, whoops, wrong. I need to do it. I'll show you this folder in just a second. In fact, here it is right here. And you can see there are all of our images. We got the heading knob, the background, the compass rose, and so on. And now it's just a matter of putting those layers in the correct order, and we'll have a great image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these images into a paint program called paint.net. That's the one I use. It's free. And just show you what this looks like when we composite all these images. I'll be back in a second. So there we go. That is our completed instrument. That's what it's going to look like. Obviously not complete attention to detail that we might do if we had all day. I do appreciate how much time you've spent here watching this, but I really wanted to do an instrument from start to finish so that people could get an idea how this works. And maybe in another video, we'll just actually write the code to make this instrument operate, just to kind of give you an idea how instruments are coded in the Lewis scripts for Air Manager. And for people who have no knowledge whatsoever, at least this gives you an idea what you can do, and we'll go on from here. So thanks for watching, but like, subscribe, share with your friends, and hopefully this helps other Air Manager users. Thanks a lot.